Okay, my outstanding friends, we're getting ready to go to the moon. NASA has already ordered the equipment to go to the moon. That's what they're saying. Now, we're going to dig into this a little bit. I say before we go to the moon, we should understand the moon as much as we can. So let's see what we can find out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I just saw in the news last night, we're going to go to the moon. We're going to build some, bases on the moon. Well, that's good. And this is, they're going to land on a spot near the moon's south pole. Why? Why the South Pole? One reason they claim is because there's a lot of sunlight on that area, and it can be seen almost continuously. There'll be some line of sight towards the Earth for communications. And they're going to be spending billions and billions of dollars to go up there. And I think they need to look into this a little closer. Because what I found out examining the moon, I see things that I think they may have missed. Now, I'm not sure, but I think if you take a look, you might consider them. Okay, one thing they're saying about this region, or wherever they want to land in the South Pole, and I don't know if this is it or not, but I do think I understand what's going on here. Now, they claim that some of these craters are so deep that they really have never seen solar radiation. However, they can see this, clearly, line of sight, and this almost clearly line of sight in these particular craters. Now, I don't know if this is what they're talking about. But I do think I understand that this is not just rocks out in space. And here's one of the things they checked when they slammed a used mission robot or whatever. No, they slammed into here with some used spacecraft, and the whole thing vibrated for almost an hour. And they have no explanation for that other than, well, there's no water and there's no this and da. Well, if you had a structure like this, or even hollow, it would ring and just continuously ring until it finally settled down. That's the real explanation. The other explanations are, there's no water, there's no this, there's that, da. Well, I don't agree with that being the explanation. I also want to show you something here that is extremely important. They know that there's a layer here. You see that? That layer goes all the way around the moon. And this is like they're showing a rover or whatever it is. And I think this is where they want to build the base. I could be wrong. But I think they have to understand this. And there has to be some change in thinking. Because I'm going to explain to you what this is. And I'm almost 100% certain of what it is. And you can make your own determination. And here's the other shot where we can get another very good understanding of what is here on the surface. You see this red here? They call that the red dirt, or whatever they call it. It's basically the same as it is on Earth. And the same thing here. You have all this red, and then you have this scale. It's almost like somebody just ripped the red off, just peeled it off. And then you have this, and then you go back down to the red again, a big stalk of red, and then back up to the yellow. This goes way down inside. Not way down, a little bit on the surface. But you see how smooth and nice this is? And this is all ripped off the edge, completely ripped. What would cause that? And the other thing is, why is this one red and that one yellow? And why is this big red spot in the center? How can we account for this? And they say the moon is rusting, which means it's made out of, there's a lot of iron. Now, they originally thought, well, it can't rust because there's no oxygen up there. It is oxygen. I'm sure there's oxygen. And not a lot of it, but there's enough to cause rust. And there's oxygen within the moon. It's not just has to surround the moon. It's within the moon, and it's connected to this iron. The iron is rust. And you're going to have phases of iron. You're going to have different types of iron oxides. And this, I believe, is the source of the rust, is that this is iron. And this is where something got torn right off that had a stalk in the center. And you say, well, Roger, what could that possibly be? I said, well, let's look at what it could possibly be. This right here is what it could possibly be. You see that? This is, I think this is, well, Mimas, I'm almost sure. It's another moon. And you see that core right there? And you see that spot in the center, which is the same as this right here. And there's the ball. And when you rip this away, it rips away some of the scale which is around it, leaving sort of a smooth surface inside. And that's what we see in these pictures of the moon. This ripped away, and this is the stalk, and there's two spots here. One of them goes in, one of them comes back. And you say, well, what do you mean by that, Roger? And I say, well, they're biological. The one that goes out is the vein used blood, and the one that goes in is the arterial blood. I know, oh, that guy's crazy. Well, make up your own mind after you see the evidence. We see all the moons are just totally divoted. That's not just from a bang here and a bang there. They were made like that. You see this? That's what they're made like. Because these are tendon enthesis. And if you don't know what that means, a tendon enthesis is the end point where a tendon attaches into a body so that it can't rip out. And this would virtually never rip out of here. You know, this is a very, and they're all like that. So something's ripping them out. What ripped them out? I don't know. But here's Tetris. You see that? Is that a coincidence that has the exact same structure and has the exact same little divots all over it? And it may have another big spot here and another big spot here. And I'll show you why that can happen too. Because if these are tendon enthesis, there's skin that has enthesis just like that. And I'll show you that right now. Okay, I'm not going to get too deep into the chemistry here or the biology because people won't understand it much, but the CD34 cells are the tendon enthesis for the skin. Now, when I say tendon enthesis, you have them in your ankles, your feet, your arms, your shoulders, everywhere. These are little tiny balls with a whole batch of goo on them, and they can stretch this way and that way and pull this way and that way, but the balls anchor that flesh to where it is. So I can pull this way, it doesn't stay there, it comes back. The bags go flat and they stretch and everything. Collagen is just a real gooey, but it's got some structure to it. These are tough, and these are tough as hell. These last forever. Those balls. They're the same balls as in the Moki marbles in Utah, Arizona, everywhere. And I mean everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. All right, let's take your time. Don't get crazy. This is the one I was just showing you with all the little balls and all the little flexy stuff. This is the same as that. You see this? This is in the tissue under your top layer of skin. See the skin? Then you get down to these, and there's a zillion of these balls. And these are what they are. Now, where else are they found? They're found everywhere in the world. Everywhere, and other places. You see that? Those are the Moki marbles. This is in Utah, Arizona. They're everywhere. And these are what they call stromatolites. They're not stromatolites. They're the same things as this. Under skin, which, oh God, it's just gigantic. Yes, there is nothing but biology. These balls are these balls. You say, well, they don't look, these are all fuzzy. And the reason they're fuzzy is because there is edible biology on these balls. When they come out of there, there's still plenty of red blood in them and all that. And moss grows on it and starts eats away at it until they get down to where there's no moss, where there's no edible stuff, and you end up with these tendon balls, these tendon enthesis balls. I call them that. Now, they're in the skin. There's probably another name for them, but I don't care about that. What we're seeing is these balls are these balls. And you say, whoa, can you prove that? I say, yes, I can. And I'll show you right now. Don't forget, these balls are laying all over with brown moss on them. And that's because they're in salt water. And as that brown moss erodes, it turns into mud. You see it? It turns into mud. That's where mud comes from, is eroded flesh. It's red, bloody flesh. So now, my good friends, what do we see here? Well, we see a zillion of these little green balls. Whoa, what are they doing there? Well, these are up in a freshwater area. I think this is Alaska. Well, I know it's Alaska. And as the ice recedes, the flesh that is underneath the ice is now becoming seen. And there's actually biology growing on there, this moss. And it's the same on all of them, just as it was the same on all of the ones in the ocean. And then look, they're everywhere. And they go everywhere. And as soon as that's eaten completely down, you'll have a little ball that will be a Moki marble. All right, so you're with me now? These are the balls that are in your skin, exact same stuff. These are the Moki marbles. And it's the same thing as here. There's Huntington Beach or Huntington Cliffs or something like that over in the United Kingdom. And they're eroding out of the flesh, falling down and being eaten by moss. And that right there is the skin. This is a very white area. And this is what's underneath right there. And this right here is right there. And these are in, that's the actual picture, microscopic shot of what's in our skin. And then as the skin erodes away and turns into mud and washes away, it leaves the balls. Well, guess where else they're found? Well, don't forget, this is Utah, Arizona, all over the area. And they're all over the world, so it's not just here. Well, guess where else they're found? You see that? These are called the Mars blueberries. You say, Mars blueberries, why are they calling that? Because they're on Mars. These little balls are the same balls that they're in Utah and Arizona, because Mars was identical to Earth before it got slammed and destroyed by some gigantic impact. And it destroyed the atmosphere and wiped it out. And now it's the red planet. Why is it red? Because that's blood. I'm serious. I'm not kidding around here. All right, so we were just on Mars, and I said those were the Mars blueberries. And you say, oh, you got to be crazy. No, I'm not crazy. What happened was they went up there and they saw these Mars blueberries all over the place, and they said, geez, this looks like little Moki marbles. And guess what? There's areas up there that still have the collagens and these little straps. Here it is right here. You see that? Take your time. Got all the time in the world. What do you see? Well, you see some of the little Moki marbles. I mean, Mars blueberries. You see? These are tough. And they've just been basically eroded away. Now, why is this one so stretched this way and stretched this way and stretched, and other ones are all looped together like that? Well, why is that? Who can explain that? Well, I can. This is a pinch in the skin. So is that. This is a mound stretched between this pinch and that pinch. Take your time. Take your time and look at it. You see up there? That's standard. This is good stuff. Where it's just sort of, not all ripped this way and ripped that way. And it's just where you're supposed to be. So after you pull it open, it'll come back to something similar to this. These just happen to be wrinkled this way, and the straps are pulled out. And because the straps are weaker, everything is weaker than the balls. The balls are the toughest of everything. The straps are sitting on top of the flesh. This is actually flesh. At one time. Now it's turned to more or less sandy, substrate, which is what is underneath of where those were. And on Earth, you would have, or on Mars, actually, let's just go to Mars. There it is right there. That's the substrate underneath the balls. And where it was stretched, that's gone. But this is on Mars. Now, why was the other one still there intact? They call it the Mars Morse code, because it has all those things going. It was in a different area during the impact, most likely, where this was torn up really bad and the other one wasn't. But it all adds up. I mean, if you could tell me that I'm wrong here, I'd like to know exactly why. We see all these balls. Nobody knows what they're about. If you ask a geologist, they have no idea. Zero. They've been studying them 20 years. Zero idea what they are. And why is the Moki marbles there? Zero idea. No idea whatsoever. Why are these here? Well, those are stromatolites. They're growing. They just grow like coral. No, absolutely not. They're falling out of these walls. They're being eaten by a certain type of moss, which is brown. It's because of the salt water. These are being eaten by a certain type of moss, but this is fresh water. You see the ice? Everything is eroding, evaporating. We're getting down to where the interior of the Earth is being warmed up. These were frozen, I don't know how long, since forever. And now they're coming out. And when they do, the moss is coming with them. And there's a certain type of moss that eats those balls. And I mean, I'm not talking here, there, they're everywhere. And some of them can get extremely large, like these. Tetchus. Mimas, our moon. That's our moon. Now, why did Mars die and all these things die, and why is it the red planet? Well, here. It got impacted. And that's wider than the United States. And it's deeper than the Grand Canyon. Whatever hit it tore the thing to shreds. And I do know what hit it. And it absorbed the magnetic, it hit it like a magnetic blast, but coming this way. It sucked the magnetism right out of this. And at the same time it destroyed the atmosphere. What you have left is Mars torn up. And this is Mars, whoops, hold on. You see this? These are the same balls as on the Mars blueberries and the Moki marbles. The same things. This is on Venus. It's incredible. The whole universe, as far as I'm concerned, is biological. And the things that are of magnificently gigantic size are magnificently gigantic. Now, we're going to the moon. All right, that's fine. They're talking about going to Mars. I think you should understand where it is that you're going. To me, it would make sense. And this is the destruction of Mars, and it was because of Venus. This is Venus. And now this was recorded in recent times. This is not long ago. This was in early BC times, but it was not long ago. This is a welding scar. This is like just as if I had this as a welding arc. Well, what happened? I'm sending electricity down here, and it's welding. That's a welding scar. And here it is, all the way down here. There's a whole batch here, a whole batch over here. And I believe, based on the ancient texts and what you can see visibly in front of yourself, this is the impact site from hitting Mars. And Mars is dead. It's a dead planet. There's just virtually nothing on it. But it was alive, and it was very alive. Identical to what we have here. Now, I'm going to show you some other things. This is so hard for people to believe and to understand. We live in a biological universe. Everything is biology. The ancient mythologies that they talked about, gods being ripped apart to create the universe, I think has a lot of substance to that. You see this? There's one of those balls. That could be a moon. You see, that's where one of the attachment was, and the cord came out this way. And this is all flesh. This is right here on Earth. Geologists have no idea about this. And this, you see this ridge? This is identical to Iapetus. You see that? That's the moon Iapetus. You see this equatorial ridge, they call it? And then you got the same thing here, the big entrance, and you got a couple little spots there. Over here, you've got another attachment, but you could have attachments here, 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 here. It depends on where it was and what kind of a tendon enthesis it was. But that is identical. Here's the equatorial ridge. All these little divots are there so that the flesh can sit in there, and you can't pull this out. And here's one that the guy found here on Earth. It's the same thing. It's identical. And right there, it's hard to see, but those are the spots underneath, and the ridge came out. And again, this is flesh. We live on just absolutely gigantic biology. See this? This is my very good friend, Tyson Carlson. That's one of these enthesis balls, and there's a strap coming out of it. And it was held, this looks to me like it could be bentonite or kaolinite clays, something like that. It's in a soft area of the body. Some of these balls go into your ankles and hold your ankle, and so your tendon will not rip out of your ankle. It could be in your shoulder, it could be anywhere. There's another one right here. They're all over the place. They're just everywhere. And he's got a fabulous site. He's a very, very smart guy. He's been out working his area up there in Oregon. And he's got some stuff that's just phenomenal. Phenomenal, because the creatures were phenomenally large. All of this can be proven. And I've been trying to get somebody to pay attention in academia or anywhere in our NASA, any of them. They refuse. And I've been many, many years showing the evidence, and they just will not engage. It's a denial by just not engaging. It's not that I'm wrong. They just won't talk. This goes back 10 years, over 10 years. And I contacted NASA and everything. And I told them, I said, you got mud fossils up there. And the next thing I know, they went to Yale and funded Yale to do a study. Instead, they said, well, this can happen, but only with slimy creatures. No, this is gigantic biology, and that's a vein, an artery, and that's a vein. These are all the little arterioles that go in to feed the tissues. This is muscle, and that's where that crab is. They called it the Mars crab when they first came out. They showed all this stuff when it first came off, when Opportunity was Opportunity was the rover that they sent up there, and it came around showing all these pictures of all these things. I knew immediately what they were. And I got a hold of NASA, and I told them, I said, you better look into this, otherwise you're not doing your job. And they did. Only they went to Yale, who denied me to show my evidence to Yale. They would not allow me to show it to them. And I had it all. And not only that, I had my stuff DNA tested and CAT scanned, everything else. And Yale refused. And then a year later, they got, because I told NASA, I said, if you don't get a hold of, if you don't look into this, you're not doing your job. And they looked into it, but they funded Yale to say, is this true or not? And they said, oh yeah, it's Ediacara it's on Earth, and it was here before there was any biology on Earth. There was no bones, there was no teeth, there was no nothing. And it was all sand, and they just got everything wrong. And I had already given them all the evidence that was correct. And now they're coming around to agree. There's no way to disagree. They call it some kind of clay now or stuff. But this right here is connective tissue. And these are sarcomeres. And this is exactly what they brought back from asteroid Bennu when they did their study of what asteroid Bennu is made out of. It's made out of biology. And they know that. They have it's 100% biology. The RNA, the DNA, all the nucleotides, the different, everything you have, it's same as us, identical to us, and it has the anatomical stuff too. It shows the heart, because it's the heart. It shows the heart bundles, it shows the heart sarcomeres, and it shows the heart membrane. And they refuse to discuss it with me. Nobody will talk to me of any of these places. Now, whether they think I'm insane, I don't think that's the case. Because if you look at this stuff that I'm showing here, and you can just dismiss it out of hand without even one question, and I never had a question yet from anybody that is involved in this stuff. And here they are going to go to, oh, we're going to go to Mars, we're going to go to the moon, we're going to do this. They have no idea where they're even going. Now, I don't see you going into any crazy details any deeper than this, but I can tell you right now, all this stuff out here was ripped out of some body of a creature, and it still has all of its red blood. And all of this stuff you could probably just plant plants in here. If you had a little oxygen with it, the plants would grow. And this may even be plant life down in here. I don't know. I'm seeing that green. This is red of flesh. This yellow, nice flat yellow, is the membrane that surrounds that ball. This is the stalk that attached that ball to wherever it attached to. And when it ripped off, it went down deeper in this area. See how this is deeper? Now the green, I don't know. That could be slime growing there. I have no idea. But this I do know is a tendon enthesis of some sort. And this is the stalk. This is where the red blood entered, and that is where the vein blood came back. And you can see, if you look real careful, there's the valve right there in the center. Arteries are nice and open. Veins have clamps. They clamp off, and I believe that's one of the clamps right there. And I have another shot showing the moon right here. And this is like going into night or whatever. It changes towards the sun, but it's pretty obvious to me what's going on. I can see the clamp right there. I can see it. You see it? This one doesn't have one because red blood just flows. Veins have little clamps every here and there. Arteries, no clamps. Just it goes in, it can go backwards, it can go this way or that way. This goes one way only. It comes out. And this is blood. It's a bloody tissue. This right here is ripped out. You see that? It's just ripped off. And that's where the stem connected, just like I showed you on this one. These here, the stems connect. This is another moon. Now, if you can't handle the truth, don't go out looking for something and not handle the truth. I got to be honest with you, it's just a disgrace. It's a disgrace what we're being told that we have to repeat in order to be accepted. It's ridiculous. These are muscle sarcomeres as well. This is on Moon. I mean on Mars. Continually over many millions of years, layer after layer after layer. No, it doesn't do anything like that. That's ridiculous. This is connective tissue, and these blocks are sarcomeres. This is absolutely on the Moon because there is no erosion whatsoever. There's just no water up on the Moon to speak of. So what you end up here was just a powdery dust that surrounds the Moon. And these are sarcomeres. So it's time to wake up and smell the roses and be honest. And think, just think. Don't think you're so damn smart you can't learn anything. And right now the whole world, literally the entire world, is being misled by the ones that we trusted to look into things, and they absolutely refuse to look into this. All right, I'm going to correct something I said about carbon dioxide. Well, I said about oxygen, but it's carbon dioxide makes plants grow and give off oxygen. You need sunlight as well, but you've got plenty where they're going to be, if they're going to be in an area where it's going to be a continuous. Anyway, that is just nothing more than flesh and blood. And just to show you, I have giants here on Earth, and they've been checked out and tested and everything else. I have a few that I've had DNA tests on, not on this hair, because I don't know what this hair belongs to. But that's the root of a hair. It's 2 inches wide. And that's the muscle. That's the sebaceous gland. Down here is the root. Of course, you got the shaft coming up. It's flat-sided on one. They tell me that's a curly-haired person. And there's the shaft where it comes down from the papilla and grows up, and there's the two papilla at the bottom. And just 2 inches wide. I can't remember how tall that would be, but it'd be a pretty good-sized person. If it was a human being, I don't know what it is. But I have all kinds of stuff from all kinds of different things here that petrified and fossilized in the mudfossil manner. And I understand the chemistry and how it works quite well now. So I'd just like to make that statement. I'm sorry about the oxygen misinformation there. Now I talked about the sarcomeres up here on Mars. There they are right there. Well, let's see, that's not continually over millions of years. Here's what sarcomeres look like. There they are, exactly the same thing. And the connective tissue is in between this red stuff. The red stuff all came out and turned into, on Earth it would be mud, but up there it just turned into dust. All right, it turned into this red dust. All right, let's just be honest about things, however crazy they may seem. If it is what it is what it is. Now, they went out to Bennu, and Bennu is a heart, just like this, just as Psyche is a heart as well, out in space. These are the valves. These different three colors here, the red, the yellow, and the black, that's the colors of blood. And then they came back with this from Bennu, which is the same as this. This is a little easier to see, but Bennu is here. You see the big round valves, just like a valve here, a valve here, a valve here. These hearts have huge valves in them. That's how your heart works. You see these, that's a heart. And when we're looking down at Psyche, I see the same thing as that. I don't know about you. And what happens to the heart is because of iron banding, it's called. The black pushes away from the red, and the top pops right off, and you end up with this. You end up with that, which are the valves. It goes this way, this way, this way, this way, back and forth. And then you got the heartstrings and all that stuff, the aortic arch. I'm deep into this, as deep as anybody can get. Now here's what they came back with. This is bioessential sugars, ribose, glucose samples from asteroid Bennu. All the DNA, RNA, genetic codes, this, that, the whole thing, everything. There's nothing there that isn't biological. And they additionally came back with the samples that show the anatomy, and here it is right here. They went down into the heart through the membrane, which is the phosphates, phospholipid membranes. They had to go through the membrane to get down to the muscle, to the sarcomeres. So they go through the membrane, they go down and grab this, they come back and they look at it, and there's sarcomeres. These are the sarcomeres. And what else did they find? Right here is a rope bundle of cardiac muscle. That's what cardiac muscle looks like. And it's all over the place. It wraps around the heart. It actually makes a loop. Anyway, that's a whole nother issue. But these are what they came back with. You want to see what a heart attack patient looks like? Remember what this is. All right, here's what a heart attack patient looks like here on Earth. Same thing. Sarcomeres. All right, now if you can get one doctor to discuss this with me, I'd love to do that. There's zero will talk about it. Zero. They have, I don't want to get into the dirt. Let's just leave it at that. And this is the sarcomeres. So unless somebody can come up with a better explanation than I have, I'm right. Now, I'm going to leave it with this. You see this? I was showing you all those little balls. Scientists just discovered the largest ever human organ, and we all have. It's an interstitium. And there's a fluid-filled highway under here. But see all those balls? That's the Moki marbles. Those are the Mars blueberries. Then below that, there's a layer of fluid. And this is not correct. That layer of fluid is almost like a flat layer. And the lymph moves through that layer. And the lymph is the most important thing in your body. It's your immune system. And then below the lymph, which goes, and now they call it the fluid-filled highway, becomes your normal tissue that they knew about. But this was just discovered, they claimed, in 2018. I was writing this about 2015. Well, I wrote a paper on it in 2015. And they had no idea it was even in our body until 2018. Now they're starting to argue about what to call it. And they're saying it's the biggest organ in the human body. Something of a controversial opinion. Well, you got to look at it and start asking questions, not just making statements. I make statements. At the same time, I ask the questions. Can you answer this? Will you help me to understand this? And there's zero, absolute dead silence. All right, I love you all.